For every age, there is a time of trial. The rocks faced such a fire before they were the strength beneath our feet. The plants braved vast winds before their roots could give us life. As a sage of considerable years, I have known only one such great ordeal. Yet the hero it created was a champion for all time.
Welcome to Games That Never Existed, a new series where I look at canceled video games from popular series that never saw the light of day. For this first episode, I wanted to do something special, a series that is near and dear to my heart, Jak and Daxter. The game in question here is Jak 4, a sequel that many fans such as myself have been hoping for years, but just never came to fruition. Today I'm going to explain why this game was never made, and also give my thoughts on what exactly I think Jak 4 would have looked like if it was made.
Ill tidings sing in the wind. I fear the remaking of the world is at hand.
First of all, this all started with the release of Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy in 2001, an action platformer game by Naughty Dog that was met with critical acclaim. The sequels over the next 3 years, Jak 2 and Jak 3, would introduce a more open world with gunplay and GTA-style missions that brought the whole experience to a completely different level. These 3 games make up the main series of the Jak and Daxter IP, though 3 more games were made after this trilogy. The first was Jak X in 2005, a racing spin-off game with combat kind of like Twisted Metal. The next was Daxter, released in 2006, a game that takes place during the prologue of Jak 2, where you control Daxter and see some of the events that led up to Jak 2. Finally, there was The Lost Frontier in 2009, a game that was disliked by many. Lost Frontier had a gameplay style that was pretty similar to the original 3 games, so I suppose that there could be an argument that this game isn't a spin-off and that this game is Jak 4, but to be honest, that's not really an argument I agree with. First of all, the game wasn't even made by Naughty Dog. The story wasn't at all related to the events of the original 3 games, and to be honest, it just wasn't a very good game in general. On top of that, the game isn't called Jak 4. Now, duh, I know, this is just a technicality, but to be honest, this is my opinion. I don't feel that it's a true sequel to Jak 3 story-wise, and so I just think that this game is not Jak 4. So then the question remains, what exactly was Jak 4 going to be? Well, there were talks within Naughty Dog as far back as 2006 to make a new main Jak and Daxter game, and many ideas were tossed around during this time period. However, things were changing at Naughty Dog, and around this time, they were also developing their next IP, the Uncharted series. Now you see, Naughty Dog still wanted to make a new Jak game, but they were having a hard time getting it done themselves, and so they hired an outside game dev to help them with it, High Impact Games. This game that they worked on turned out to be The Lost Frontier, and it didn't do so well. Now this isn't exactly the time or place for me to talk about this game and tell you why I don't like it, but just understand, once again, I don't think it's a proper sequel to Jak 3, I don't think it's Jak 4. And this game pretty much flopped. Its reviews weren't terrible, but fans hated it, it didn't sell that well. However, despite this, Naughty Dog still wanted to make a new Jak and Daxter game themselves, and around this time, more concepts were thrown around and concept art was drawn. The drawings from this time show a more gritty and realistic Jak and Daxter game, one that Naughty Dog had intended to be sort of a soft reboot of the franchise. Now once again, it's not exactly clear if this was meant to be a complete reimagining and a completely different story and timeline, or if it was going to be kind of sort of a sequel that they just kind of, changed a little bit, but it's not really known. All we have are these drawings and a couple of words said by some of the devs. However, Naughty Dog felt that they didn't like the direction that this project was going in, and the thing is, they wanted to do so many different things with the story and change and do so many things that they were afraid to diverge too far from the Jak and Daxter formula. They felt that the world was too constrained and restricting, and that they couldn't tell the story that they wanted to within the confines of the Jak and Daxter IP. So, it was around this time that they decided to scrap the idea of a new Jak and Daxter game and instead focused on a new IP that would become The Last of Us. While Naughty Dog has said that Jak and Daxter isn't currently being considered for a new game, they have said that the franchise is never off the table. Now personally, I think that the odds of there being a Jak 4 is pretty low at this point in time. Last of Us was a huge success, and Naughty Dog is hard at work making part 2. It seems like they just have too many ideas and things going on and not enough people where they don't want to dedicate the time to a Jak 4 because they don't have any solid ideas for it, and they're also trying to work on another big project at the same time. So instead, they've just kind of shelved it permanently. Of course, I don't know for sure. I don't work there. That's just what it seems like. And look, I mean, I can understand why they did what they did, right? They have to keep innovating. They keep coming up with new IPs that are very successful, and this is a great thing for the company because they just keep moving forward. I mean, hell, if they stuck with Crash Bandicoot, as much as that would have been pretty cool, we may have never seen a Jak and Daxter in the first place. So I understand why they did what they did. Even if as a fan of Jak and Daxter, I'm not happy with it, as a fan of Naughty Dog, I respect it. Now the question is, what exactly did they have planned for Jak 4? Of course, we don't know for sure anything besides the few drawings, concept art that we got, and a couple of words here and there, but I think I've pieced together a couple of things, and remember, this is just my thought and my idea. Obviously, none of this is confirmed, and unfortunately, it probably never will be. These are just my thoughts, so here we go.
Wow, look at that.
Finally, the last rift gate has been opened.
What are those things?
So this is how it happened. You cannot hide from me, boy.
Do something, Jak! What's this do? Or that? How about this one? Anybody press all the buttons?
Jak 3 tied up the main Jak trilogy nicely, and it honestly didn't leave many loose ends for potential sequels to chase after. That is, except for one very important name. Mar. Mar, in the Jak and Daxter universe, is the name of a legendary hero from the past that built Haven City and many other structures and protected humankind from the Metalhead Wars. In Jak 3, we learn of Jak's father, Deimos, who was a member of the ruling house of Mar and ruled over Haven City for a time. Deimos is a descendant of Mar, therefore, with Jak being Deimos' son, Jak is also a descendant of Mar, and he reveals that Jak's birth name was, in fact, Mar. Now, on one hand, Jak really could be just a descendant of the legendary Mar. However, it is possible that Jak is the legendary Mar. Given his penchant for time travel, it seems possible, meaning that at some point after Jak 3, he travels back in time to defend against the Metalheads and build Haven City. This is what I imagine Jak 4 would have been. It would be the tale of Jak fulfilling his legacy, not just as an heir of Mar, but as the legend himself. This game would have explored Jak going into the past and fighting the Metalheads as Mar to fulfill this prophecy. Given how this game would be taking place in a different time period, this could justify the change to a more realistic art style as seen in the concept art. It could also explain what Naughty Dog meant when they said they couldn't fit their ideas into the Jak and Daxter ethos. Perhaps they meant that they wanted to tell the story of Mar, but felt too boxed in by the lore they had already written regarding the character. Once again, this is just my theory, and could be that none of it's true, but I feel like this kind of makes sense and fits the puzzle pieces that Naughty Dog left for us. But why, you may wonder, do I think that this is what Jak 4 would have been, and why do I even think that Jak is the legendary Mar and not just his descendant? Well, the idea of Jak being or not being Mar has been a hotly discussed topic within the Jak community for over a decade, and this seems like the last loose end that Naughty Dog is left hanging, the only question left unanswered. Because while it's never stated that Jak is the original Mar, the context within the game and the reveal itself seems to almost imply this being true.
Greetings, great warrior. Your return brings us great hope.
Jak, you are the greatest of heroes. You have turned the tide against the Dark Makers, and together we will win this war.
But dude, there are like way more challenges in the future.
Ha! Or was it the past?
Yes, I was getting to that.
Wait, Jak is Mar? The Mar?
And to be honest, it seems like Naughty Dog definitely made a conscious decision to say, oh hey, by the way, his real name is Mar, wink wink, right? Like, I don't think they would have put this in the game for no reason and do nothing with this information. No, I don't buy it. Do you really think it's supposed to just be a coincidence that they gave him the same name as the legendary hero? I don't. I think that they had bigger plans for Jak, but they just unfortunately couldn't iron the kinks out of it enough, so they ended up scrapping the idea. Yet the eternal question remains, is Jak really Mar? And will there ever be a true Jak 4 to answer that question? As more and more time passes, it seems increasingly unlikely that Naughty Dog will ever revisit this dynamic duo. It seems that between the new games they're making from other franchises, they're just so busy, and they just couldn't get the details right to make Jak 4 a reality with all this other stuff going on. But then again, maybe that's for the better. We all know that rushed games usually don't turn out well, and if Naughty Dog couldn't make Jak 4 the way they wanted to, then perhaps maybe it's better they don't make it at all and just leave the trilogy as it is.